Today, we are going to continue to talk about paraphrasing. Specifically, we will discuss what has to be changed from an original source text into the new text in order to not be considered as plagiarism. As we know, paraphrasing is an important skill that academics rely on frequently. We use it to report someone else's ideas in our writing and phrasing. Changing it is necessary in order to make it fit into our own writing. We can use paraphrasing to give meaningful background to an idea in a paper or to support an argument. We can also use it in presenting a differing or opposing viewpoint. We can paraphrase to emphasize a point we want to make. We can also use paraphrasing to distance ourselves from an opinion that contrasts with our idea. So what exactly does a paraphrase look like? How does it differ from quoting and summarizing? Let's take a look. Quoting is taking the exact words from an original text and using them in your writing. We must always cite the author and the source when quoting. As we can see from this example, the author is using Stefano's exact words and provides both proper in-text and referencing citations. The reference list, of course, would be found at the end of the whole paper. Paraphrasing, however, is transforming the original's words into your own words. It is generally shorter and more concise than the original. We must also always cite the author and the source here too. In this example, we see that there are no quotation marks in the text, but rather the ideas are transformed into a new format with new words. Similar to quoting, a reference page at the end of the paper would list this source. Lastly, summarizing is writing the main ideas of an original in your own words. Summaries are usually done to review the main ideas of a whole article, book, or larger piece of writing, rather than an individual sentence or paragraph like in paraphrasing. In this example, we see no quotation marks, but again referencing and citations are provided. Citing the source, even in a summary, again is a must. With the summary, no page number is given because the summary summarizes the entire argument of a piece of writing and not just an idea or paragraph on a specific page. In general, the length of a summary can be the same, shorter, or longer than the original. A summary, of course, is shorter than the original. This brings us to the most important rule of paraphrasing. The most important rule is that both the words and the sentence structure must be changed from the original into the new sentence. Let's consider the following original sentence. Business people ride the commuter train to work. Paraphrase 1 reads, workers take the commuter train to work. This is an unacceptable paraphrase because it simply replaces two words. It does not change the structure. Paraphrase 2, however, commuters travel by train to work, is different. This is acceptable. It changes the structure and the words of the original sentence. Now let's try another example. The original reads, any intelligent fool can make things bigger and more complex. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. Albert Einstein. A suggested paraphrase reads, the intellectual may be thought a fool when bravely progressing towards a reverse course, abstaining from creating extra intricate objects. Albert Einstein. This is an unacceptable paraphrase. Elements are added and the entire meaning of the original is lost. As we can see from this bad example, a bad paraphrase is one that either distorts the message, adds information, or deletes important information. We must be careful to avoid this in our writing at all costs. In order to avoid producing bad paraphrases, we should follow some basic guidelines. We should always try to use our own words. The presentation must be clear. This may mean including more detail than initially desired. Do not paraphrase specialized vocabulary or technical terms. Leave your own comments or evaluation of an idea out of the paraphrase. You will have the ability to do so later in your writing. Make sure the paraphrase reads smoothly. As we saw with the Einstein paraphrase, it was difficult to read. When paraphrasing, we should follow these basic steps. 1. We should read the original for full comprehension. 2. We should try to identify the most important elements. 3. We should put the original away. This will help us to avoid plagiarizing. 4. We should try to construct in our own words a presentation of these essential elements. So let's practice these steps with the following original sentence. Read it, then identify the major elements. In my reading, the most important elements are that we are talking about the stock market, which represents global financial institutions, the changes that happen to them, and the causes of international political events. Now, let's put the original out of our view and try to come up with a paraphrase that contains these essential items. The successes and failures of the stock market are often influenced by global events. This may not be the most perfect paraphrase, but it seems to capture the major elements of the original. It does change the structure and the words of the original. Please remember, when you are paraphrasing, that just because you have paraphrased an author's idea and put it into your own words, this is not an original idea of yours. Therefore, if you paraphrase it and do not properly cite your source, you are guilty of stealing the original idea, which we call plagiarism. For this reason, you must always cite your sources, even when paraphrasing. I hope you found this video informative. Happy writing!